Thai hook transliteration included for reference. Efenknaklankan, midiksakan nung dane sukanthan pakchumnafan, tailayu, enjamud bang xiang grime tamthex. Saying krasabrak chucks text dang kunriuksi, kunklafex himpakashusi ncb layeruquam labthis unisafan. Transliteration. Fon tok nak klang kuan. Mi dek sao kon nung don yu kon diao bonthanot piak chum nam fon. Tae lao, ngae mud bang yong rurm tam ter. Siang krasap riak chui ter dang kuan rue I. Kun kla fum I tha ya yu jun job le ru kwamsap ti sun yu nai sai fon. The rain fell in heavy sheets. Each drop pounded against the pavement like tiny drums. She ran, her shoes splashing in the growing puddles. The streetlights flickered, casting shaky shadows on the wet asphalt. Her hair clung to her face, soaked and sticky. The cold seeped into her bones. Every breath formed a mist in the dim light. She could hear the distant rumble of thunder shaking the sky. She stopped at an alley, her chest heaving. A strange silence replaced the storm for a brief moment. The only sound was her own heartbeat, loud and uneven. Something in the darkness moved. A shadow slipped between the buildings. She froze, unsure if it was real or a trick of the rain. The air smelled damp and metallic, like iron. Her skin prickled, every hair standing on end. A whisper brushed against her ear. It was not carried by the wind, yet it was unmistakable. Her legs trembled. She wanted to run but could not move. A cold hand touched her shoulder. She spun around. There was no one there. Only the alley and the endless rain. Her mind screamed that she should leave. The shadows shifted again, closer this time. A low, guttural sound rose from the darkness. Her vision narrowed, focusing only on the wet ground beneath her feet. Suddenly, a face emerged. Pale, wet, and hollow-eyed. It stared at her with an intensity that made her blood run cold. She realized it was not human, yet it mimicked her every movement. The rain seemed to thicken around her, pressing in. She wanted to scream, but no sound came. The shadowed figure smiled, and then it whispered her name. The whisper of her name echoed through the alley like a cruel melody. Her body shivered despite the warmth of her jacket. The rain was heavier now, slashing across her face and soaking her completely. Every drop stung like tiny needles, but she hardly noticed. The figure did not move, yet it seemed to breathe in time with her. Her heart thumped against her ribs as if trying to escape. She could feel its gaze even though her eyes struggled to focus in the darkness. The wet concrete beneath her feet seemed to pulse with the rhythm of her fear. She took a trembling step backward. The shadow mirrored her movement exactly. Her mind raced. No one could move like that, no one could be so perfectly synchronized. Her hand brushed against the brick wall of the alley. It was slick and cold. Her fingers trembled as she pressed herself against it, hoping to make herself invisible. The shadow tilted its head, almost curiously, like a predator toying with prey. She tried to shout for help, but her voice cracked and vanished into the rain. The storm swallowed it. Thunder rolled overhead, shaking the air in her bones. Every flash of lightning made the alley look like another world, twisted and unreal. The shadow moved closer. Her stomach tightened, a cold knot of dread. The rain seemed to thicken, turning into a curtain that trapped her in its wet embrace. She could smell it now, an acrid, coppery scent that made her stomach churn. A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the figure fully. Her breath caught in her throat. Its face was pale and elongated, eyes hollow and black as night. Its mouth opened, revealing teeth too sharp, too many, glinting in the rain. It was smiling, but not like a human smile. She stumbled backward, her foot landing in a deep puddle. Water splashed around her ankles, icy and relentless. The shadow advanced without a sound. Each step it took seemed heavier than the last, pressing into her chest with invisible force. Her mind screamed for logic, for a rational explanation. But none existed here. The rain drummed harder, drowning thought and reason alike. She could feel the pulse of fear, not just in her chest, but under her skin, in her fingertips. The figure raised one hand. It was pale, elongated like the rest of it, fingers curling unnaturally. Her instincts screamed to run, but her legs would not obey. The world narrowed to a single point, the shadow and the rain. Then it spoke, not a whisper this time, but a sound that rumbled deep in her chest. A voice that was both familiar and alien. It repeated her name, stretching it out, twisting it. Her knees buckled, and she fell to the wet ground, rain soaking through her clothes. A sudden movement in the corner of her vision made her head snap sideways. Another shadow, smaller, darted behind a dumpster. It watched her, silent and still, its eyes glinting like wet stones. She realized with a jolt that she was surrounded. The alley was no longer empty. The rain seemed to thicken further, as if the storm itself conspired against her. The sound of her own breathing was deafening. Every heartbeat echoed in her ears like a hammer against glass. The shadows shifted, sliding across the walls like liquid darkness. One of them lunged. Her body moved before her mind could react, stumbling backward and hitting the wet bricks. Pain shot through her shoulder, sharp and sudden. The figure circled her, silent, patient, like a cat before the kill. Her vision blurred from the rain and panic. She screamed, finally, a raw sound that tore from her throat. But the shadows did not flinch. Instead, they multiplied, stretching along the alley walls and spilling from the corners. The sound of the storm could not drown the whispering anymore. It came from every direction now, her name repeated, drawn out, distorted. She tried to crawl toward the street, toward safety, toward anything familiar. Her hands slipped in the mud, the grime sticking to her palms and clothes. The shadows followed, creeping closer with every inch she gained. She could feel them in the air, cold and oppressive, brushing against her skin. The rain began to sting like acid. Her hair clung to her face, matted and plastered. Her jacket was soaked through, heavy with water. Every movement was exhausting, every breath a battle against panic. She reached a street corner and saw a faint light, a store, maybe, or a car passing by. Hope surged, sharp and immediate. She scrambled toward it, ignoring the cold and pain. But when she glanced back, the shadows had already filled the alley behind her. They spilled into the street like smoke, and the light did not touch them. A hand grabbed her shoulder again. This time she did not hesitate. She twisted violently and broke free, sprinting into the rain without looking back. Her shoes slipped, her clothes soaked and heavy, but she ran. The shadows moved faster. She could hear their whispers rising into a chant, repeating her name over and over. Her lungs burned, her legs trembled, but still she ran. Then she reached a bridge over the river. The water below roared and surged, swollen from the storm. She paused, gasping, and for a moment, the shadows stopped too. They lingered at the edge of the alley, watching, patient and still. She leaned over the railing, staring at the dark water. Rain pelted her face. Thunder cracked above, shaking the metal under her hands. The shadows did not follow onto the bridge, but they waited, still whispering. Her chest heaved. Every instinct screamed to keep moving, to escape, to survive. But something deeper, darker, told her she could not leave. The shadows would not let her go. Then the voice came again. Clearer now, rising above the storm. It was her name, but hollow, empty, filled with something she could not recognize. And in that moment, she understood the truth. They had been waiting for her all along. They had always been here. The rain had only drawn them out. And now, there was no way back. She stood on the bridge, drenched and trembling, the river below roaring like a living thing. The shadows lingered at the edge of the alley, silent now, watching. The rain fell in sheets, washing the city in silver light, yet it could not cleanse her fear. For a long moment, she did nothing. She simply breathed, listening to the storm and the distant echo of her name. Her heart still raced, but slowly, the grip of panic loosened. The shadows remained, unmoving, as if bound to the alley and unable to follow further. A single flash of lightning illuminated the water. She saw her reflection, pale and ghostly, staring back at her. And in that reflection, she noticed something new. The fear, the terror, the icy touch of the shadows, had not left her entirely, but it no longer ruled her. She took a cautious step back from the railing. The rain fell like a blessing now, cold and cleansing, washing her face and hair. Her feet, heavy with water, carried her slowly toward the city streets. The shadows faded behind her, merging with the night, patient and waiting, but powerless to follow. She did not speak. She did not look back again. Every step felt fragile, yet determined. The storm would pass. The night would end, and she would survive, carrying the memory of fear, the taste of rain, and the shadowed whispers with her forever. When she finally reached the bright lights of the city, she paused. The warmth of the street lamps, the distant hum of life, and the chatter of strangers felt like a promise. She was wet, exhausted, and changed, but she was alive. The girl in the rain had faced the darkness and, somehow, had stepped through it. And though the memory of the shadows would never truly leave, she knew something essential. Fear could follow, but it did not have to define her. The rain, the storm, the terror, they were behind her now. And the girl moved forward into the quiet pulse of the night, carrying a fragile courage she had never known she possessed. The rain began to slow, dripping from rooftops and gutters. A calm settled over the city. Somewhere, far away, a whisper lingered, but she no longer trembled. She had endured. She had survived. And in the silence after the storm, she finally allowed herself to breathe.